Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you. Thank God it's Friday. Happy Friday to everyone in the house. So let's quickly do this. Let's confirm that you can see my screen and you can hear my voice by typing hi in the comment section so that we can get the session started. So let's confirm we're all on the same page. So if you can see my screen and you can hear my voice, kindly type in hi in the comment section. Okay, I think I can see Innocent Babe in the house. Good morning to you, Innocent Babe. We have Lucica Panzaru. Hi, how are you? Thank you for that confirmation. Then we have 303. We have Helena. Hey, Carrie. Good morning. Thank you. Yes, thank God it's Friday. All right. We have Alpha Sen. Good morning. All right. We have N3. We have DSP07. Hi, thank you very much for this confirmation. So with this I have here, I want to see this as a fact that we are all on the same page on this one. So I want to welcome you all to yet another promising session on X Trend Speed Live, hosted by my humble self, Sheriff Daramola. And usual, we are going to be going on a trading journey in the next 1 hour, where we shall be evaluating the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us during the New York session today. Well, we all understand the fact that today is Friday and this is going to be the last trading day of the week. We want to be very mindful of how we are going to be taking some trade today, and also we want to be doing some cleaning up, locking our position, locking in some profit, as we don't want to get caught up in any sudden pullback that might is possibly going to happen today due to some quick profit taking activities that is always peculiar with the last trading day of the week. So during the course of the live session today, I will be dishing out my ideas on how we are going to be going about cleaning up our position, locking in some profit, and if there are any possible scenarios that we could actually take advantage of, how we'll be dishing it out during the course of the session. So I want to advise you, stay tuned in so that you don't miss out on any of the options that I will be dishing out during the course of the live event. And also, if you have any pair you want us to look at, be it commodity, cryptocurrency, options, whatever it is, feel free to drop it in the comment section and let's see how we could incorporate it into our plans for today. So without further ado, let's dive into the chart and let's see what is happening in the market. So we are going to be looking at all the pairs we've been monitoring since the beginning of the week, and we're going to be looking at how well they are doing, and we're going to be taking an advice on what our plans is going to be on this pair as we head into the New York session. So the first pair we are definitely going to be looking at is the US oil as usual. And what is the setup we have here on the US oil? Well, we are on a very critical level at this point in the market. Remember, we are very profitable on this pair as price action is still running within our profit range, and at this point in time we are running with about, let me see how many pips in profit right now. We are running with over 240 250 pips thereabout, which is quite massive for the week. Now, with the current situation we have here, the first thing I'll be saying here is to move your stop loss. I hope you move your stop loss, and I think somewhere below the $87 area seems most appropriate to place our stop loss at this point in time. Now, as we head into the New York session today, what is going to be our plan? What are we going to be doing during the New York session today? Let's quickly look at what the structure is giving us on the higher time frame, especially for those who are not part of the session during the early days of this week, so that we can all be on the same page. So let's dive into the daily time frame and let's see what is really going on the higher time frame. Well, if we look at the current structure we have here from an holistic perspective, we can see that price action has been on a strong bullish momentum since the beginning of the year. In fact, in the last 2 years now, price has continued to trend to the upside. And as a result of this, we were able to connect the series of lower highs here to give us that resultant bullish trend line that has been guiding a bullish momentum in the last 2 years. And in addition to this current structure we have here is this bearish trend line that I was able to connect after identifying a uniform lower lows and lower highs here since the month of June. Look at what we have here. After connecting the series of lower highs here, we saw a bearish momentum that collapsed right back into that bullish trend line. So that also is a very important structure at this juncture in this market. Then the final structure that we were able to identify here on the daily time frame is the $86 mark. And if we go to as far as the later part of last year's trading session, we will notice how this $86 level has been a major determinant of price action. As we can see, every time participants price comes within this level, participants use this level as a selling niche at one point in the month of November last year. Then at the beginning of this year, we saw a final breakout retest of that structure. And if we fast forward into the month of August, we saw how that level again served as a bullish niche for participants in this market. However, during the month of September, we finally saw a breakdown of that structure, and throughout the course of the month of September, price continued to trade right below that level. And then if we look at what happened during the early days of this month, we saw a final breakout of this structure, which can be said to be a reflection of the OPEC Plus decision to cut oil production. And since price broke out of the structure, we are beginning to see a situation where we saw a retracement back into that current structure, and since then price has been caught within a consolidation phase, which finally led into a significant breakout of the $86 level a couple of days ago to signify that buyers have come to stay at this point in the market. Now, in addition to what we have explained so far here, it's important I state here, further emphasize how strong this $86 level is and how it's going to be guiding a bullish momentum as we head into the New York session today. First of all, a couple of weeks ago, we saw this impulsive move that broke out of that bearish trend line, which also lines up with a key level here. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakout of a structure like this, what is the next thing we are expecting? We expect that price is likely going to come back and do a retest of that structure, which is exactly what happened last week. And since then, price has been caught within a consolidation phase, which looks more like a reversal pattern. As we can see, price continued to reject the $82 mark. As we can see, every attempt by the sellers to push price right below that level has been met with stiff resistance from the buyers, and this is more or less a sign that buyers are likely trying to incite the second wave of that bullish momentum that started 3 weeks ago. And as a result of this, during a couple of days ago, we saw this engulfing candle taking price right out of that structure to give us a confirmation that we are going on a bullish momentum. So right now, with the current structure we have here, how do we intend to take advantage of any trading opportunity during the New York session today? Well, if we look at the structure, we saw the breakout of the $86 MAC. Well, from a technical standpoint, we should be expecting that price action will come back and do a retest of the structure in such a way that we have buying pressure right around this area, which also lines up with the bullish trend line we identified earlier to send price going to the upside. That is the first scenario we want to be looking forward to. And then the second scenario is a situation where we have a trend continuation pattern right above this level in such a way that we might be having something like this, like a bullish rectangular pattern or a wedge, whatever it is, a breakout retest to send price soaring to the high side. So in order to trade this, we need to really see what is really going on in this at this point in the market to decipher what next or what our plan is going to be like. So in order to get this scenario here, we need to scale down to a much lower time frame, and I think we should go down to the 2 hours time frame. I guess let me see the 2 hours time frame, for instance, and let's see what is happening there. So on the 2 hours time frame, what is the first thing we observe here on the 2 hours time frame? Well, Remember I told you how we took advantage of this bullish momentum right above the $85 level. As we can see, after price broke out of this reversal pattern, which looks more like a consolidation phase here, we saw the breakout retest of the $85 mark on the lower time frame, which we immediately took advantage of that bullish momentum right above that level. And most importantly, price broke above the $86 mark, which is very, very important, a very important structure that has been guiding price action for quite a while now. And then the other structure here on the 2 hours time frame is this trend line. After connecting the series of lower highs here, we can see how this level has been a major determinant of price action. Though we had a breakdown retest here, but during the early days of this week, we finally saw a breakout of that level. And since then, price has continued to trade right above that structure. So with the current structure here now, let me zoom in so that we can see what I'm talking about better. So let's zoom in. We can see what has been happening here. So since the impulsive move to the upside here, that started at the beginning of the, we can see how price action has been caught within a channel between the $88 level and the $87.40 level. Though we had a breakout of that structure, price came back again within this channel to emphasize the indecision in this market right now. Well, from a technical standpoint, if we are going to be looking at the structure, we would either want to wait for price to give us a signal in the form of either a breakout or a breakdown of the structure. So we could likely see something like a breakdown, retest of structure to send price back into the key level to do a retest of that structure that was broken earlier in the week to incite another wave of a trend continuation to the upside. So that is one scenario. Or we could be looking forward to a situation where price breaks above the channel at the $88 mark, then a retest to structure lining up with that bullish trend line. Then we look out for buying pressure on lower time frame to join the trend continuation to the upside. So these are the scenarios we want to be looking forward to at this point in the market. And for those who are still in this trade, remember our stop loss is right below the $87 mark, which makes us still valid in this trade at this point. And for those who had missed out on this trade, well, what I'll be suggesting to do right now is to remain patient. Let's see if price is going to break out of the $88 mark. And if price breaks out of the $88 mark during the course of the New York session today, well, then we want to wait for price to give us a confirmation in the form of a retest of structure. Then we look out for structures on lower time frame that will be supporting a trend continuation to the upside. So this is how we want to be trading the US oil for today. And if we at any point have a breakdown of the $87.50 level in such a way that price comes back to do a retest to structure followed by selling pressure right around that area, then we want to be looking at waiting for price action to come back into the key level area here, which lines up with the buy zone that we identified at the beginning of the week here, looking out for buying pressure around this level to take advantage of a trend continuation to the upside from that point. So even if a breakdown of that bearish trend line also lining up with the $87 level happens, we'll still want to be very patient at this point. For me personally, I will not be thinking of selling the US oil. I will wait for that retracement move to see how far this retracement phase is going to go, which is likely going to come within the buy zone here, after which we look out for buying pressure to take advantage of that trend continuation to the upside. So for the US oil, we continue to look forward to buying opportunities here, and I was able to identify two setups. That is, price breaks down, comes into the $86 level to join the rally, or we wait for price to break out of the $88 level, retest of structure, then we could actually join that trend continuation to the upside here. So that is that on the US oil. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop it in the comment section, and I will try to shed more light in whatever area that looks a little ambiguous for you. Okay, so I'll be taking the next 10-15 seconds to read through the chat and see if there are any questions whatsoever before we move on to the next pair. So we have Georgie in the house. Good morning. We have Sabid Neds. Good morning to you. We have Benis. We have 7038. We also have okay, so we also have 066. Good morning to you. All right, in the absence of no questions, I guess we move on to the next pair. And the next pair we are going to be looking at is the US tech. And on the US tech, it's quite interesting that price has dropped significantly well to the downside, and we are right within the buy zone that we identified earlier in the week. Now, look at the current structure we have here. Remember, we took advantage of this move at the beginning of the week as price action climbed to as far as the 11,700 area, where we started seeing selling pressure from that point. And one thing I was able to tell you here as at yesterday was that we want to be patient on this one to see how far this retracement move is going to go before we want to be taking advantage of another bullish momentum. And if we look at the structure we have here on the 2 hours time frame, we were able to identify two parameters to guide our action for the week. The first one is this bullish trend line after we connected the series of higher lows here. As you can see on the screen, we connected this level, so we were able to have that bullish trend line. And what we can see in the last 24 hours is quite interesting. As we can see, price is right back within that bullish trend line, and within that area we're beginning to witness a consolidation phase around that area with a possible bullish momentum possibly going to be happening at this point. But we need to be very careful here as we want to monitor what's really happening at this point in time to decipher if this bullish momentum is going to be valid, or we could be having a situation where a breakdown of that significant demand zone we identified on the higher time frame will incite a trend continuation after a retest of structure happens. So in order for us to have a better view of what I'm talking about here, as especially regarding the demand zone we identified here, let's scale up to the daily time frame and let's see what is really happening from an holistic perspective. Now, on the daily time frame, well, the first thing we observed on the daily time frame was that price action has been on a bearish turn since the beginning of the year, and as a result of that, we were able to connect a series of lower highs here to give us that resultant bearish trend line. However, something interesting happened which starts negating all the selling pressure we've been witnessing since the beginning of the year, is the $11,000 mark here. We saw what happened in the month of June, as we saw every attempt by the sellers to push price right below the $11,000 mark has been met with strong resistance from the sellers, as we saw our buyers took price right back into that bearish trend line, and again we saw price come back into that $11,000 zone in the last 1 month. And in the last 1 month, we continue to see buying pressure from that area. So at this point in time, considering the fact that this level at the $11,000 mark has a memory for buying power, and if price continues to trade right above this demand zone, definitely we want to continue to think that buyers are still going to be strong at this point in the market. The only thing that will negate any bullish momentum on this pair, on this chart, is something like a bearish signal in the form of a breakdown of that demand zone. And if that happens, remember, we are not getting too excited, as we want to be patient enough to wait for price action to give us a confirmation in the form of a retest of that structure, followed by selling pressures on lower time frame before we want to be joining the decline to the downside. But if this does not happen and price continues to trade right above this demand zone, definitely we want to be looking forward to buying opportunity for the US tech. Now, in order to look at what is really happening here and make a decision on what our next plan is going to be, we really need to understand what is really going on at this point. As you can see right now, price is right at this trend line. We have this trend line here. We saw the breakout of that trend line, though we had price come back to do a retest of structure, breaking right down below that trend line. Well, I want to be seeing a situation where price comes right back above the $11,250 level, right above that level, to be able to join a trend continuation to the upside. So let's scale down and see what is really happening at that juncture. So as at the beginning of the week, we saw our price started the week at around the 11,250. So this is what we had at the beginning of the week. We had a breakout of the 11,250. Price came back into the $11,250 level. Did a couple of rejection there. Then we joined the rally to the upside. And since then, price came back broke down the 11,250. That's the level where price action started the week at, to line up with that bullish trend line. So what we want to be doing here is to remain patient. Let's see how price action is going to relate to the structure. So like I showed you on the daily time frame here, I want to see a situation where I want to see a bullish signal in the form of an engulfing candle taking us right above the 11,250 Japanese, sorry, 11,250 dollar level, and then we wait for a confirmation to happen in the form of a retest to structure, followed by buying pressure on lower time frame around here. It could be a reversal pattern, whatever it is, or a rising wedge. Then we take advantage of a trend continuation from that area. So at this point in time on the US tech, I will be suggesting that we remain patient here to see what happens in the next couple of hours to now finally make a decision. Though we had a sharp rejection of the buy zone we identified earlier, well, I would suggest that we wait and see if we are going to be having an engulfing candle that will take price right above that structure. Now, before I move on to the next pair, let's see what is happening here on the lower time frame. Let's see what is happening here on the lower time frame. Let's go to like the 15 minutes time frame. Let's see what is going here. If we can find a structure that supports a trend continuation to the upside, and we could use that as a leverage to join very early. So scaling down to the 15 minutes time frame on this one, what do we have? So we have a situation where price did a sharp rejection of the $10,800 mark, and since then price has found higher low, though we had a structure here. So we can see what has been happening around this level. So what I'll be suggesting us to do here is to take into consideration this impulsive move. This impulsive move here, using our Fibonacci retracement tool, aim at somewhere between the 50 and the 78.6%, which falls somewhere around here. And this area could be a buy zone. So what this simply means is that if price comes within this level and we start seeing buying pressure from that area, we could obviously think of buying the US tech, but this is not so at this point, as price is right above that level. And if we look at right above that level here, we have this impulsive move up. Price came back to do a retracement to somewhere around the 50% retracement, and since then we have seen a consolidation phase which has higher lows here. And what this simply tells us is that it's looking more like a reversal pattern, and if we can have an engulfing candle breaking out of this reversal pattern, it could be a signal that a bullish momentum is coming in. And whenever we have a reversal pattern like this, the next thing we want to be doing is to identify a neckline that we will be using as our guide for trading opportunities here. And so if we're going to do that, we have a neckline right around the 11,000, what's it called, $11,050 level. So let's label this area for the sake of clarity. So we have the $11,050 level right here on the 15 minutes time frame. So what I'll be suggesting us to do at this point is to wait for a significant breakout of the structure. So if at any point in time during the New York session today we have a breakout of the structure, price comes back to do a retest. Remember, if a breakout of that structure happens, we are not getting too excited to join. We want to wait for confirmation in the form of a retest of the structure. Then we could actually join that rally. And then if price continues to go to the upside, breaking right above the 11,250, then a retest of structure will welcome an addition to our existing trade on the US tech. So this is how we want to be looking at the US tech for today. So what this simply means is that we want to remain patient and wait for structures to line up in our favor before we want to be joining any rally at this point. So that is that on the US tech. If you have questions, feel free to drop in comments or inquiries in the comment section below, and be rest assured that I will be checking that area from time to time to see if there is any attention needing my assistance. Okay, so that is that on the US tech. Then let's move on to the next pair. We are going to be looking at the XAUUSD, which has been on a very strong bearish momentum since the early hours of today. I was able to upload this update on my TradingView platform, and this is what we saw. Remember, we actually profitable on the XAUUSD. Remember, we took advantage of this bullish momentum right from the $1,640 level. We took advantage of this move right from this level. So we took this move right into the $1,670 area, where we started seeing selling pressure from that level. And remember, okay, we had like how many pips in profit at this point? We had over 2,500 pips in profit before we started seeing this bearish um, trigger in the form of selling pressure right around that bearish trend line. So I shared with you that structure on the daily time frame at the beginning of the week, and I think we talked about it yesterday too as well. And let me make you see have a better perspective into what I'm talking about here. So let's scale up to the daily time frame so that I can show you how important that trend line is. And you can see here on the daily time frame that price has been on a downtrend, and that bearish trend line has been a significant guide in pushing price to the downside from that level. Though we had buying pressure around the $1,620 level, we won't be ignoring the long-term bearish momentum here, as price action appears to have been rejecting that bearish trend line since the beginning of this week. So we want to be taking that into consideration as well. And if we are going to be taking that into consideration, we want to look at how the structure is playing out on a lower time frame. And if we look at what's happening on a lower time frame, we can see here, we can see huge selling pressure around this level, and we identify the $1,660 level, which has been a something like a neckline of that reversal pattern. And one thing I said yesterday is that we should move our stop loss to lock in some profit. Remember, I told you to move our stop loss to lock in some profit. And then if price breaks out of this bearish trend line, that we want to be seeing that as a bullish signal, but we want to wait for a confirmation in the form of a retest of structure to join the rally. And the other scenario I made mention of was the breakdown of this bearish trend line. If a breakdown happens, price comes back to do a retest of structure, then we look out for patterns on lower time frame that support a trend continuation to join the decline. And this is exactly what's happened, as our second perspective was triggered right below the $1,660.50 level. And since then, price has been running with about how many pips in profit right now? Over 1,300 in pips in profit. If you had been part of this journey of this bearish momentum, kudos to you for being on standby to take advantage of that move. Next thing we want to be doing right now is to lock in some profits at this point. You can either move your stop loss to break even or lock in some profit at a desired level, maybe somewhere around the $1,655 level. Seems most appropriate, as there is a tendency that price is likely going to come back and do a retest of the structure that was broken during the early hours of today, after which selling pressures is likely going to be sending price going to the downside from this level. So for those who had missed out on the opportunity right below the $1,660 level, well, let's see if the market is going to give us a second chance in the form of a retest of somewhere around here. And if that happens, be glad that the market has given you a second chance. All you just need to do, scale down to your lower time frame, look out for selling pressure or reversal pattern around this level, then you could actually join the decline to the downside. And if the decline happens and price continues to go to the downside, I will be advising you that as soon as price gets into the $1,640 level, I want you to move your stop loss again to lock in some profit, as we want to see how price is going to relate to this current structure. And the reason why I'm saying that we want to see how price is going to be relating to this current structure is simply because of the fact that we have a structure around this area in the past. We can see around the $1,640 level was an area where we saw bullish momentum at the beginning of the week, which we actually took advantage of anyways. So we want to see if price comes back into this level. We want to see how price is going to relate to that structure. Are we going to be having buying pressure again from this level to take advantage of another trend continuation to the upside? Or is there going to be a breakdown of that level in such a way that price gives us a retest of structure to give us a confirmation to add more position to our sell position on the XAUUSD. So these are the scenarios we want to be looking forward to during the New York session today. And at this point, please move your stop loss if you're already in this trade. And let's see if the market is going to give us another opportunity to either add more position to our existing trade. And if you are not in this trade, let's see if the market is going to give us a second chance of joining this reversal structure that we have here on the XAUUSD. So that is that on the XAUUSD. It's quite a simple structure we have here. So we continue to look forward for buying pressure. Sorry, looking for looking forward for selling pressure here as long as price continue to trade right below this important bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. The only thing that will make us buy the XAUUSD right now and based on this current structure is a breakout of that bearish trend line, something like this, breaking out of that bearish trend line, and we are not going to be getting excited as we want to wait for confirmations before we want to now be joining that buy momentum. So at this point in time, let's continue to look forward to selling pressure as we edge closer to the end of the trading week. So that is that on the XAUUSD. And let's see. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next pair and see what is happening on the XAGUSD. That's the silver. So on the silver, we also have a similar scenario with what we have on the gold. And what we have here is quite interesting. At the beginning of the week, we took advantage of this structure right around the $18.90 area. Remember, hold on a second. So we took advantage of a trend continuation to the upside right above the $18.90 level here, and price moved to as far as the $19.70 level before we started seeing selling pressure. So we had about how many pips in profit before we started seeing over 700 pips in profit, though we moved our stop loss to somewhere around here, and you must have closed your buy position at around let me see, around 500 pips minimum at least. And one thing we saw since pricing got into the $19.70 level was the strong selling pressure right below the $19.70 level. And though we had a clue at the beginning of the week, price gave us an hint that there is going to be a selling pressure at the beginning of the week. We saw what happened here at the beginning of the week. When price got into this level, we saw a sharp rejection of that level evolving into a shooting star, which is more or less a strong signal that sellers are strong at that point. However, during the course of the week, we took advantage of this bullish momentum right here, and as soon as price got into this level, we started seeing selling pressure as throughout in the last 24, 48, 72 hours here, we saw how that level has been a selling niche for participants in this market. Though it was caught within a channel anyway, we saw that our price was caught within a channel, and a breakdown of that channel during the early hours of yesterday was more or less a sign that sellers might be coming in, though we had bullish momentum, but price was unable to break above the previous high as the selling pressure continued. So that was a sign that, okay, let's look at right below the $19.50 level for selling pressure at this point, and this is exactly what happened during the early hours of today. We saw price climb below this level, and if you are taking advantage of this move, kudos to you for being on standby to join this decline to this downside, as you will currently be in about, let's see how many pips in profit, over 250 pips in profit at this point in time. So what we want to be doing right now is to move our stop loss to lock in some profit, or move your stop loss to break even, or somewhere right around the $19.30 level to lock in some profit, as we don't want to get caught out in any sudden pullback that might likely happen here. So what I'll be suggesting us to do here is to, like I've said, lock in some profit, and let's see if the market is going to be giving us a second chance, which might likely come in the form of a retest of structure, whereby followed by selling pressure on the lower time frame to join the decline to the downside, or we could be seeing a situation where price breaks down the $18.90 level, where a retest of structure will give us an opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. So this is how we want to be trading the XAGUSD. So for the XAGUSD at this point in time, we'll continue to look forward to selling pressure from this juncture in this market. For buying pressure, well, for anything, for if you are thinking of buying the XAGUSD, well, I will be advising us to look out for a breakout of that $19.70 level. That is price take out all the sell pressure around this area to give us a signal that buyers have come to stay. So if a breakout of the $19.70 level happens, then we want to be seeing that as a bullish signal. Remember, we are not getting too excited as a breakout of that structure. We'll remain patient and wait for price action to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of the structure before we want to be joining the trend continuation to the upside on this one. So that is that on the XAGUSD. So let's see how price action plays out close to the end of the session. I'll be advising you move your stop loss, lock in your position. We are at the end of the trading week and anything could actually happen. So we want to be mindful of how we manage our trade. So just lock in some profit at this point. We don't want to get caught up. We don't want to lose out on the profit we had made on this pair since the beginning of the week. If you have any question regarding what I've just explained, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section and let's see how I can be of help in that regard. So moving on to the next pair. So the next pair we are going to be looking at right now is the USD Now on the USD CAD, we're taking out of the position at the 1.3600 level. Remember we joined a bearish momentum on the USD CAD at the beginning of the week. We joined the decline right around the 1.37 level here. So we joined a decline right below the 1.37 area here, and price moved significantly well, moved over 190 pips in our favor before we were stopped out again at this area. So we had about 100 pips thereabout on the USD CAD. And we had a second entry yesterday. I told you that a retest of this 1.36 during the course of the New York session yesterday will incite a trend continuation to the downside, and this is exactly what happened. If you took advantage of this move, kudos to you. But one thing that happened was that as soon as price got into the 1.35100 level, we started seeing buying pressure, and definitely you would have moved your stop loss to break even or lock in some profit here as we saw price come back into the entry point at the 1.3600 level. So at this point in time, what is going to be our plans? Well, before we go into the details of what our plans is going to be like on the USD CAD, let's quickly look at what is really happening on the higher time frame, and let's see if the selling momentum we took advantage of at the beginning of the week is still a valid structure we could be looking forward to as we head into the New York session. So the first thing we do here is to scale up to the daily time frame, and on the daily time frame here, it's obvious that price action has been on a strong bullish momentum since since the beginning of the year, obviously. And we have this trend line. This trend line, that's the first structure we were able to identify here at the beginning of the week. We had this trend line after connecting the series of higher lows here. Though we had a breakdown of the structure, price came back to climb right above that trend line, and since then price has been trading right above that trend line. However, during the course of this week, we saw the breakdown of the structure. So now the question right now, considering the fact that we are at a very critical level, that is the breakdown of this trend line here, the question now is that is this breakdown a true breakdown or a false breakdown? So what we want to be seeing here is to decipher if we really had a true breakdown or a false one. Remember, we are on a strong bullish momentum, and the possibility of a trend continuation to the upside here is still very, very possible at this point. And though we have the breakdown of that structure, we need to understand and see what is really happening around here to know if truly we are having a breakdown or we're having a false one that might be sending price to the upside. So now going back to the 2 hours time frame, what I was able to observe on the 2 hours time frame was quite interesting. As you can see, how the 1.35100 level has been holding buying pressure in the last 48 hours. So we can see every attempt by the sellers to push price right below the 1.35100 level has been met with strong resistance from the sellers, in the last 48 hours. So what this simply tells us is that this is more or less a strong buying niche for this participant in this market, and this is turning out to be a reversal pattern. How do I mean by that? We had this impulsive move to the downside, and since then price has been rejecting that level, looking more like a triple bottom structure. So if we are going to be having a reversal pattern here, then a neckline at around the 1.36 looks like a good yardstick for buying opportunity. So what we want to be looking forward to at this point is this. We want to remain patient. Remember, we are already taken out of our position at break even at this point. So what we want to be doing here is to remain patient and see how price action is going to be relating to the 1.3600 level during the New York session today. So what we're going to be looking forward to at this point is, if there is going to be a bullish momentum here, we want to see a significant breakout of that structure, like an engulfing candle, taking out all the sell position that we have been witnessing since the beginning of the week around here, to give us a bullish signal. And if a bullish signal like this happens, remember, we are not getting too excited. We want to wait for further confirmation to give us that leverage to join the trend continuation to the upside, and the confirmation will come in the form of a retest of the structure. It could be the retest of the 1.36 area, after which we look out for buying pressure around this area on the lower time frame to join the trend continuation to the upside. And if we are going to be joining the trend continuation to the upside here, we want to be mindful of the current structure at the 1.3700 level, which also lines up with the bearish trend line that we identified here at the beginning of the week. Remember, we had this bearish trend line at the beginning of the week, so we have a structure here. So if we join a potential rally to the upside from that point, well, the next thing we want to be doing is to be mindful of how price action is going to relate to the structure. So what we are going to be doing as soon as price gets into the 1.3700 level is to move our stop loss to either break even around this level or move it to close, lock in some desired profit at this point. And let's see if we are going to be having a reversal pattern that will be sending price going to the downside from this area. Selling pressure here, that will be sending price going to the downside from here. We never can tell. Or we could be having a significant breakout of the structure, after which a retest will be confirming that a trend continuation has come to stay. So that is one scenario we want to be looking forward to, if that breakout of the key level at the 1.3600 level happens. So that is one scenario. Then the other scenario is this: considering the fact that we have a bearish momentum since the beginning of the week, as price breaks down that bullish trend line we identified on the daily time frame, we can't ignore the possibility of a bearish momentum coming in at this point in the market. So we have to play out both scenarios to be able to get ready if any of the scenarios happen during the New York session today. So if we are going to be selling this, we are no longer selling right below the 1.3600 level anymore, considering this this buying pressure we identified here at the 1.35100. So we are no longer selling at this point again. And what we want to be looking forward to is another bearish signal in the form of a breakdown of the 1.35100 level, where in such a way that price takes out all the buy position here to give us a signal that sellers are finally come back into this market. And remember, we are not getting too excited when we cite that one breakdown of the 1.35100 level. We wait for confirmation in such a way that price comes back to do a retest to structure. It could come as far as this. It could come anywhere right below the 1.351, but the most important thing we want to be looking out for on our lower time frame is selling pressure around this area to join the trend continuation to the downside. So these are the two scenarios we want to be looking forward to on the USD CAD. So we have the bullish expectation that its price breaks right above the 1.36100 level to signal that buyers have come to stay, or we could be waiting for price break down the 1.35100 level to confirm that sellers are right back in this market. So this is what we are going to be looking forward to on the USD CAD. So let's see how price action is going to play out in the next 24 hours. But remember, it's the last trading day of the week. We want to as soon as price moves in whatever direction it dictates during the New York session, please and please ensure you move your stop loss to lock in some profit and then see how price action will play out. We don't want to get caught up in any scenario where price takes us back into a loss position. Remember, we are very profitable on the USD CAD as at this week. We are in a good position on the USD CAD already, and we don't want to lose out on whatever we have made so far. So that is that on the USD CAD. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section, and I'll make sure from time to time I check what is going on to see if there are any anybody that seeks my help. So the next pair we are going to be looking at, and I think, okay, we still have a couple of pairs to go. So the next pair we are going to be looking at is the GBPUSD. And on the GBPUSD, we begin to see selling pressure in the last 24 hours. And one thing we noticed here, remember, since for the past 2 weeks now, remember we've been expecting the breakout of the very important 1.1400 level for us to be able to take advantage of a bullish momentum despite identifying this bullish trend line. Let me show you on a daily time frame what this, I think 4 hours time frame, how important the 1.1400 level has been in the last 2 months. Now, look at the structure here. If we go to as far back as the month of September, you can see how the 1.1400 level at one point in time was a very strong buying niche for like 2 to 3 weeks in the month of September before the final breakdown of that structure happened during the later part of the month of September. And from a technical standpoint like this, whenever we have a breakdown of a structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back and do a retest of that structure, which is exactly what happened 3 weeks ago on the GBP USD. So you can see how the 1.14 has been a strong selling niche for participants in this market. Fast forward into the structure for last week, we saw how the selling pressure around the 1.1400 level pushed price to the downside as well. So now, despite the fact that we had this bullish trend line, after connecting the series of higher lows here, we were very mindful of buying the GBP USD considering the strong selling niche around the 1.1400 level. So what we were actually waiting for to be able to take advantage of that bullish momentum was a breakout of that 1.1400 level, taking out all the sell position here to give us a leverage to join the rally to the upside. And remember, whenever we have a breakout of a structure, we don't want to get too excited. We remain patient to wait for price action to give us further confirmation before we join the rally. Now, what happened during the course of this week was a breakout of that structure, evolving into a trend continuation pattern. So we hold on a second. What's happening here? All right. So we had the breakout of that structure. Hold on. So we had the breakout of the structure. So we waited for price to give us further confirmation to join the rally. So we saw a situation where price was caught within a consolidation phase, which looks more like a trend continuation pattern. And we had something like this. And we took advantage of this move at the beginning. I think on Tuesday, on Wednesday, we took advantage of this move, remember? And price moved like how many pips in our favor? Over 150 pips in our favor before we started seeing selling pressure right around the 1.16500 level. And you can look at how important that level is. That level, that zone also lines up with the bearish trend line we have on the daily time frame. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So here we go on the daily time frame. We can see how price action has been on a bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, and we had this bearish trend line after connecting the series of lower highs. And look at what happened here during the course of this week. Price rejected that bearish trend line one more time. So we have a very critical level in this market as we want to see
how price action is going to relate to the structure. Are we going to be having a reversal pattern around here are we going to be having a reversal pattern around here to send price crashing to the downside one more time, or are we going to be having a situation where we'll be having a significant breakout of structure, retest of structure to send price going to the upside? So these are the two scenarios we are looking forward to. And to get what is really happening here and see from a better perspective what is really going on here, we need to scale down to a much lower time frame. Let's say the 2 hours time frame to decipher if we really need to take a trend continuation to the upside, or we want to be joining the potential decline. So now scaling down to the 1 hour time frame, what did we see here? So following the impulsive move to the upside, well, the first thing we observed was this rejection here. Then we saw the second rejection here, and then we saw another rejection here, making the structure look more like a head and shoulder pattern, which is more or less a reversal pattern. So because of the citation of this reversal pattern, the next thing we did was to identify a neckline that will be guiding our trading activities going forward. So we have a structure right around the 1.15500 level, which has been a buying niche for participants in this market. We can see buying pressure from that level. So what this simply means is that if a breakdown of that structure happens, then definitely we want to be seeing this as a bearish signal. And in the early hours of today, this is exactly what happened. We saw a breakdown of the 1.1500 level to signal that sellers appear to be coming in. Well, if we look at what is happening on the daily, on the 1 hour time frame, this is more or less going to be a situation where this reversal pattern will evolve into the retracement phase of that impulsive move that started this week. So we had this impulsive move at the beginning of the week, and this could likely be a retracement of that impulse that we never can tell anyways until this retracement phase ends. So since we already have a breakdown of structure, there is the tendency of taking advantage of this counter trend if price comes back into the 1.1500 level, where we start seeing selling pressure below that level on lower time frame. And if we look at the structure here, it lines up with the bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. So if we start seeing selling pressure right here on the lower time frame, since we already have a breakdown of structure, then I think it's good for us to sell the GBPUSD. So if we sell the GBPUSD at this point, I would advise that we place our take profit target right along that bullish trend line that we identified on the higher time frame. Remember, we had this bullish trend line guiding price action in the last 3 weeks. So we want to see how price action is going to relate to that structure. So are we going to be having a situation where price comes back into the structure to incite the second wave of that bullish momentum that started this week? Well, that is why we are having our take profit target there. We want to be mindful of how we trade this. So we're going to see how price is going to relate to that structure. If we are going to be having a reversal pattern to push price up, or we could be having a breakdown of that structure. So while we join the decline here, that is if a selling pressure happens here and we join the decline, what I'll be suggesting here is that as soon as price gets back into the 1.1400 level, remember how important that structure has been in the last 3 weeks. And recently we have a structure right around that area. We had a breakout of that structure as well. We had a retest of that structure. We saw selling pressure at the beginning of the week. We want to move our stop loss to break even or lock in some profit. So as soon as price tests this area, that is when our selling pressure is triggered. As soon as our sell position is triggered rather, and price comes into the 1.1400 level, we want to move our stop loss accordingly to protect our position at this point. So that is how we want to be trading the GBPUSD for today. So let's see how price action plays out in the next couple of hours. We're already in the last day of the trading week, and let's see. As soon as price moves in our favor, please move your stop loss accordingly to protect your position against any sudden pullback on this pair as well. Now, another thing I want to share with you here is the possible scenario where price breaks out of that bearish trend line. So remember, we had the bearish trend line on the daily time frame. So if price breaks out of that trend line, what are we going to be doing? So if price breaks out of that trend line, well, the first thing I will say here is don't get too excited at the breakout of that structure. We want to see that truly this is a breakout. And the only way we can know if it's truly a breakout is when price comes back to do a retest of structure and we start seeing buying pressure right above this trend line, which also lines up with the 1.1500 level, 1.15500 level. Then we want to be seeing this as a confirmation that buyers have come to stay. So a breakout retest on lower time frame will confirm a trend continuation to the upside. So this is how we are going to be looking at the GBPUSD today. So I hope I was able to simulate all the possible scenarios that we could actually take advantage of during the New York session today. So on this note, I want to call it a day. But before I do, let's do a quick recap of what we talked about so far on the US oil today. So the first pair we looked at today is the US oil. And on the US oil, we said we are on a very critical level. And at this point in time, we have moved our stop loss to somewhere around below the $87 mark. And we are still very profitable in this trade as price action is giving us about 280 pips in profit at this point in time. So you have moved your stop loss to break even. However, we can see that price has been caught within a channel between the $88 level and the $87.40 area. So what I said here is that let's see if we are going to be having a breakout of the $88 level, and if that happens, I want to see that as a bullish signal, and the retest of the structure should give us an opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. And for those who missed out on the opportunity, we took advantage of both at this level, both at the $85 level and the $87.40 level during the course of the week. Well, let's see if the market will give us another opportunity to join this potential rally if a breakout of the breakout retest of the $88 level happens. Now, the other scenario we are looking forward to is if price does not break the $88 level outrightly and a breakdown of the $87 level happens, and then we have a situation where price breaks down, retest of structure, breaks down and takes us out of our buy position. Then we wait for price action to come within the $86 level area here, where we have identified a buy zone to look out for buying pressure to join the trend continuation to the upside. So we have two scenarios we are looking forward to. I'm not advising to sell, even if we have a breakdown of the $87 level. I'm not advising to sell at this point, as this is looking very bullish for us. So we want to be mindful, and if only if a breakdown happens, we wait for price to come and give us buying pressure to join the rally to the upside. Then we moved on to talk about the US tech, where we took advantage of a bullish momentum at the beginning of the week, where price moved about, we took it from here, price moved about over 350 pips in our favor before we started seeing selling pressure around this $11,750 mark, and price has continued to drop to the downside. And we had this bullish trend line that has been guiding a bullish momentum since last week, and which price appears to have come within the zone at this point with a very sharp rejection of that area. So what we want to be looking forward to at this point is to see how price action will relate to the structure. So at this point, I'm still leaning towards a bullish momentum here, considering the fact that price is right on that demand zone we identified on the daily time frame. Let me show you that quickly. So on the daily time frame, we have price action right around the demand zone we identified at the $11,000 mark. So we want to see how participants in this market will relate to the structure during the New York session today. So what we are going to be doing when we scale down to the 50 minutes time frame to see what is really happening here, we were able to identify a key level, at the $11,050 mark. And this is as a result of this reversal pattern that we identified here. So what I said here is that we want to wait for a significant breakout of the 11,050. If that happens and price comes back, do a retest of the structure with buying pressure right above this level, we want to be joining the rally to the upside from there. And if a breakout of the 11,250 happens and retest to structure, we want to be adding more position to our existing trade. So this is what I'm talking about: breakout 11,250, retest, then we want to add more position to our existing trade on the US tech. So for the US tech, I told you I'm not going to be selling unless price breaks down that strong demand zone we identified on the daily time frame. That is, take out all the sell all the buy position here, then I want to be seeing this as a bearish signal. But if that does not happen, we continue to look forward to buying opportunity on the US tech. So then we went on to talk about the XAUUSD, that's the gold. And on the gold, we are profitable right now. On the gold, we've been profitable since the beginning of the week. Remember, we took advantage of this bullish move right above the $1,640 level, and we took over, let me see, price move about over 3,000 pips in our favor, but we were stopped out around here, and that's at over 2,000 pips in profit. And since then, price has continued to find selling pressure right below the bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. Let me show you where that is. So we had this bearish trend line on the daily time frame, and as we can see, price has been respecting that bearish trend line in the last 1 year, and we started seeing strong selling pressure on that bearish trend line at the beginning of the week. So we got ourselves prepared and positioned to take advantage of that move. And what we saw was a very simple setup. We saw the breakdown of that bullish trend line here. We saw a retest of structure. Price came right above, rejected it, and then we said right below the $1,660.50 level was looking promising to be selling the XAUUSD, which is exactly what happened. And currently we are in about 1,400 pips in profit. So the thing I said here is that we move our stop loss to break even or lock in some profit at this point, so that we don't get caught up in any sudden pullback that will be taking us out on the loss position. Remember, we are very profitable on the XAUUSD since the beginning of the week, and we don't want to lose out on any of this profits we have made so far. So right now, what I've said here is that let's see if the market is going to give us a second chance of joining this decline. So if that's going to be happening, we're likely going to see something like a retest of the structure here, followed by selling pressure to join the decline. And if a breakdown of the $1,640 level happens, well, a retest of structure should give us a confirmation to join the decline to the downside on the XAUUSD. So that is that on the XAUUSD. Let's see how price action plays out in the next couple of hours. Then the next pair we looked at is the XAGUSD, which also shares a similar scenario with what we have on the XAUUSD. Remember, we took advantage of this move right above this level at the $18.90 level. We took advantage of this bullish potential, and we closed that buy position, though price moved over 700 pips in our favor, but we closed right here with about 550 pips there about when price stopped us out from where we pushed our our stop loss. And since in the last 72 to 48 hours on the XAGUSD, we have been seeing selling pressure right below the $19.70 level, and the $19.50 level appeared to be the neckline of that reversal pattern. So with the breakout of that structure a couple of days ago was a sign that sellers have appeared to be coming in on the market at that junction. So we positioned ourselves right below the $19.50 level, and we are currently running with about over 300 pips in profit on the XAGUSD. So let's see if the market is going to give us a second chance. Please ensure you have moved your stop loss to break even or lock in some profit at this point in this market. So we want to see how price action is going to give us another opportunity, which is likely going to come if price comes back into doing a retest of the $19.50 area, followed by selling pressure here. Then we could actually add more position. And for those who are getting this trade, this could be an opportunity to join the trend continuation to the downside. That being said, if at any point in time price breaks down the $18.90 level somewhere around here, and the retest of structure happens, that is, price breaks down and does a retest followed by selling pressure on lower time frame, we could add more position to our existing trade. But there is a catch here. As soon as price gets into the $18.90 level, one thing I'm advising us to do is to move our stop loss to lock in some more profit, maybe somewhere around below the $19.10 area, which is more visible as we have a structure around here, to move your stop loss there to lock in some profit, because we never can tell what is going to happen around this level. And the reason why that is, remember, we have a structure around here which turned out to be a buying niche for participants in this market, so we never can tell if this area could start seeing buying pressure from this area. So we want to move our stop loss to lock in some profit so that we don't get caught out in a very critical position. So that is that on the XAGUSD. So I hope you'll be on standby if the market presents us with another opportunity. Then we went on to talk about the USDCAD, after which we saw a breakout of the 1.3600 level, taking us out of the sell position we took advantage of yesterday. So on this one, on the sell position we took advantage of yesterday, we are at break even. However, it is worthy to note here that we joined the decline right below the 1.37 area, and we price moved about 180 pips in profit before we were stopped out around this area with over 100 pips as price moved within this area. So since in the last 48 hours, price has been caught within a consolidation phase right within the 1.3600 level and the 1.35100 level to give us a clue that there is an indecision in this market right now. So what we did here is that what I said at today is that we are no longer going to be selling right below the structure because of the multiple buying pressure we observed right above the 1.35100 level, which could turn out to be a reversal pattern. And like I said, if we have a breakout of the 1.36100 level retest to structure, then we want to be joining this rally to the upside. And our take profit target could be somewhere around the 1.38, wherever it suits you. You can have your take profit target wherever it suits you there. But one thing I said here that we need to hold on to is this 1.37 area. So if price action comes within this 1.37 area, remember this area has been a selling niche for participants in this market in the past. If price comes within this level, I want us to move our stop loss to lock in some profits at this point. And the reason why I said we should lock in some profit here is simply because we don't know how price action is going to relate to the structure. It could turn out to be a situation where price breaks out of that structure to give us a bullish signal, or we could be having a situation. Hold on a second, this just popped up on my screen. I don't know why. I must have mistakenly clicked on it. So if we might have a situation where we have selling pressure right around this level to send price to the downside, or we could have a breakout of that structure. A retest to structure will give us confirmation to add more position to our buy trade. So that is the buy expectation we are looking forward to on the USDCAD. Now, the fact that we had the breakdown of the bullish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. Remember, we had this bullish trend line which was broken during the course of this week. We can't ignore the possible bearish momentum that can still happen in this market. So I'm not selling here anymore. As we can see, we had buying pressure around this area. So what I want to be seeing is a breakdown of this 1.35100 level. That is, price takes out all the buy position here. Then this is going to be a bearish signal, and we don't get too excited at the sight of that signal. We wait for further confirmation in the form of a retest to structure, after which we look out for selling pressure on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. So these are the two scenarios we are looking forward to on the USDCAD. So we are still waiting for this to happen. For the buy pressure, I'm expecting an engulfing candle taking us right out of the 1.3600 level to join a bullish momentum, and then a breakdown of the 1.35100 level to be thinking of selling the USDCAD. So patience is required at this point in the market. Now, the last pair we talked about today is the GBPUSD, and at this point in time, we already have a reversal pattern right around the 1.1600 level. As we can see, selling pressure right around that area, which also lines up with the bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. Let me show you that in a moment so that we can have a better perspective into what I'm talking about. So we had this bearish trend line that has been guiding price action since the beginning of the year, and look at what has happened here during the course of the week. Price has come within this trend line one more time, so there is a tendency that we could be having a reversal pattern from that area that will be pushing price to the downside. So in that regard, we are able to identify a neckline right around the 1.15500 level, which is the neckline of this reversal pattern, and we already have a breakdown of that neckline to give us a confirmed reversal pattern. So what we are looking forward to at this point is a breakdown retest of the structure to join the decline to the downside, and we should be having our take profit target somewhere around the bullish trend line we identified on the higher time frame. So we have this bullish trend line around here. So let's see if price is going to respect that bullish trend line one more time to send price going to the upside. So there's also a catch here on the GBPUSD. So as soon as price continue to move in our direction, I have advised us that as soon as price gets into the 1.1400 level, remember how important that level has been in the past. We saw the breakouts retest of the structure, and we can see in the last 3 weeks, this level has been a strong selling edge for participants in this market. So because of this information we have here, I said as soon as price gets into the structure, we want to be moving our stop loss to lock in some profit, as we never can tell if this level could incite a bullish situation that will be sending price to the upside. And if a breakdown of that structure happens, retest, then we could be adding position to our sell position on the GBP USD. So this is what we are looking forward to during the New York session today. And on this note, I want to call it a day. And I wish you best of luck during the New York session today. And always remember that we are not going to be getting too excited when we cite a signal in the form of a breakout of a structure or breakdown of a structure. We want to be patient enough to wait for price action to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of structure before we want to be joining whatever move price is dictating at that point in time. And if price does not come back to give us a retest of structure, please and please, you can pass that trade. There are quite a lot of opportunity in the financial market we could actually take advantage of. So if price does not give us a retest of structure, pass the trade, and let's see if we could have another opportunity somewhere else. So on this note, I wish you best of luck during the New York session today. I wish you a wonderful weekend, and I also look forward to seeing you on Monday, same time, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, same place, Extreme Speed Live, and let's come again together and get ourselves prepared for the new week. On this note, best of luck once again, and do have a wonderful weekend. Bye bye.